Thank you very much, everyone in the audience, for joining us, and to AIMA for inviting us here to speak about our experiences. And I'm sure this is going to be a masterclass for all young leaders out there. We're speaking about driving change, innovating for impact. And ladies and gentlemen, I'd just like to begin with some examples. I was thinking about the topic while I was on my way here, and three names which come to your mind, and I'm sure you have lots of names out there. Jeff Bezos was someone who conceptualized the idea of Amazon at 30. Brian Chesky was 27 when he launched Airbnb, and Steve Jobs was 25 when Apple went public. You have plenty of examples out there about young leaders bringing about disruption. And that's exactly what I believe, that you have a lot of young leaders today questioning what is normal, questioning how things are done. They have a bigger risk-taking ability. They're able to take feedback better, and somehow they have a very strong vision, and they're driven by that. And clearly that's why we need to bet on our young leaders more for the future. But I won't waste more time. I want to open up this discussion to three very successful entrepreneurs and leaders in their own right. I'd like to begin with Arshi. Ladies and gentlemen, Arshi is somebody who works with the royal family offices of the UAE. She started her education in the UAE. She studied at the HR college in Mumbai. She's worked in EduComp. She's worked in the real estate sector with IIFL. She's worked with the UN. She's founded Oxygenate, a company which is into renewable technology. She's also the CEO of Trust with Trade. So the list goes on. And I'm breathless speaking about it. But Arshi, I'd just like to ask you about what keeps you going. And ladies and gentlemen, what you'll find common in this panel is that all three individuals wear many hats. How do they keep this going? Arshi, let me begin by asking you, what has really driven you through the course of your career?
Thank you so much, Parikshit. It's such a pleasure to be here, especially on this prestigious panel with my young fellow panelists. Thank you very much to AIMA for hosting us always with so much of generosity and warmth. The entire team deserves a very huge round of applause. AIMA young leaders, I would want to start with that. Thank you for putting the lady on the spot to ask what exactly drives us, Parikshit. Let me put it across my individual perspective. I haven't known it any other way. I think when you start working in a sector which is traditional, conventional to the stereotype that society holds today across the world, not just the region, but across the world, you don't know it another way. You don't know how to not do it. You have to do it in order to grow. You have to do it for your intellectual advancement. So it has never been an option for me. Plus, I have always prioritized self-learning over everything else. I have prioritized constantly learning from everybody I meet. I learned a great deal from you, from also talking to my fellow panelists doing incredible work in technology and across. So it has always been a process of self-learning, of not having a choice but to grow, and not having, I think, the ability to not accept. I think today we are living in a time where women have to come up, be vocal for what they want, be extremely negotiable for what they need and where their merit stands. And of course, the UAE leadership has transitioned the success and prosperity of women across all the vertical economies. Today, we have a 27.8% cabinet representation held by female ministers. We have the Federal National Council that hosts more than 50% female. We're talking about senior management position and board members who are female. And they are not there by the virtue of gender. They are there by the virtue of merit. So I think we don't know it another way. That would simply answer the question. Thank you.
You know, one very basic thought that I feel is very relevant in your case and for all women leaders out there, and why women have to work sometimes much harder to prove themselves, is that law, whether it is in India, UAE, or anywhere in the world, all the laws were made by men. When you were making laws, you were sitting in a room full of men, and that's how our laws and constitutions were made. And that's why perhaps we need greater women representation, and women need to work harder. Ankur, quickly coming to you, and ladies and gentlemen, when I think of Ankur Warikoo, I only think of one individual who's constantly disrupted himself every couple of years to make a better Ankur. He became a content creator in 2005 when being an influencer was not a rage at all. I didn't know what an influencer was way back in 2005. I know it now over the last few years that it can be a very good career thanks to Ankur and many more people like him. But Ankur, what was something that drove you? You've said in your posts that in your 20s, you couldn't make it to IITs. You joined a startup. You got fired from there. You left a scholarship in the United States to come back, not knowing what to do next. You really experimented and changed yourself every couple of years. What's been your success mantra?
Thank you, Parikshit, for your kind words. Thank you, AIMA, for having us and encouraging a conversation around young leadership. I will narrate a story to try and answer your question. So our 7-year-old daughter, her name is Uzma. She's in the school swimming team. And one of her very tedious jobs in her life right now is to go to school every day at 5 a.m. for the swimming practice. And she hates it. She wished that she hadn't done that or signed up for that school team. And one of those days, she just completely broke down. She's like, I don't want to go. It's just too painful and so on. And both Ruchi and I, my wife and I, we were quizzing her, what's wrong? What is it that you don't really enjoy? And she said, it's gotten really boring. My friends are not around. No, it's 5 a.m. It's dark now. It's really cold. But the bigger thing that she kept repeating was it's really boring because we're doing the same thing over and over again. And I know how to swim and I can manage my way through and so on. And that's when, I kid you not, Ruchi and I looked at each other and instantly felt like this was a moment to show that we are really good parents because we don't rarely get those moments. And what we told her, which I don't think she fully recognizes, but that is truly the way that I live my life, is the day you fall in love with the boring is when you have a shot at being successful. Because when it starts getting boring, that is when 99% of people will check out. That's when they'll be like, no, I need variety in my life. I need something new. I need something exciting, because we always love to start something new. We love to hang out with new people. We love to work on new projects. We love to have new goals and new targets for our life. But if you look around, whether it's somebody that you're inspired by, that you would want to be, you'll constantly look at that common thread that they are pursuing the boring. From a distance, it'll feel like, why are they even doing it? Like, why does Mukesh Ambani get up every day and go to work? Why does Elon Musk have to do all the things that he does? Like, it would be truly so boring to sit in a workshop or in this meeting and trying to do whatever they are. But I personally in my life, and I would perhaps say for a lot of others who've made it, and I don't claim that I've made it in any measure, is that I have the ability, and I genuinely feel that I'm so boring in my life that I love it. I can do the exact same thing every single day. I can wear the same clothes every day, eat the same food every day, show up at work and do the same thing every day. And it never gets to me that I want to do something exciting. And what has happened surprisingly because of that, Parikshit, is when you commit yourself to a journey that you have no idea where it will take you, new things just start coming on their own. You don't have to plan for it. And Deepak and I were talking about this, that maybe there is destiny, who knows? I'll perhaps find out when I pass away, hopefully, that all of this was just destined. But there is this uncanny way for the universe to throw opportunities at you when you're just doing your own thing. And it's amazing that 20 years back, I was a PhD student studying astrophysics. 15 years back, I was a management consultant. 10 years back, I was an executive of a large tech MNC. 5 years back, I was a founder of a venture-funded business. And today, I'm a bootstrap founder, living my life so differently from what I thought I would be 20 years back. And I think it's largely because I fell in love with the boring.
So stick to the boring. That's great to hear. Great to hear opening remarks from both you and Arshi, Ankur. Deepak, getting you in. Deepak is someone who began his journey from Ludhiana, somebody who has studied with Bhavish Agarwal, the CEO of Ola Electric. So IIT Delhi, in a way, has produced some of the brightest minds in the country and in the world as well. But Deepak, speaking about your journey, you worked in the West, you worked with Alstom. Now you are helping startups. Give us a sense of what's been your biggest motivator so far. You're dealing with a lot of young people who are in Web3 technologies, Web3 startups. What keeps you going, and what drove you into starting this business?
So I'll just, again, I'll also give a small walkthrough. about my own journey. So I'm a dyslexic, which is, I think now majority of the world knows about it. So when I was in my early years, there was no such assistance existing, but my mother was very persistent about it. So I failed in my 10th, 3 subjects I clearly remember. And then my father somehow figured it out that something can be done. So I was into cricket, professional cricket. So he just said that if you go through the regular journey, you won't end up anywhere. So just look at the examples of somebody like maybe Anil Kumble, Srinath, who ventured into engineering, and through that, they could find their true calling. So I'd like, Dad, just give me a challenge, which is the best college in India. He said, like, get into IIT. So from there onwards, a dyslexic kid, really finding it difficult to even read a word.
A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Like,
You just decided to get into IIT and you got into IIT?
because I really wanted to play cricket.
I
So-
tried 3 times.
So like, again, like during my preparation years, I met Bhavesh, so we both used to prepare together. Quite a centric person, and he kept me motivated because he was very focused. So we competed with each other. He went to IIT Bombay CS, I went to IIT Delhi CS. So we were pretty lucky that way that we both kept on pushing each other. Passing out from college, like mother was not keeping well, so I came back to India, started my own education venture. And whenever I used to find it difficult to cope with the students, my mother always used to give me this example that you should be the last one cribbing about all these things. Because if your journey has been such a big turnaround, I think you can turn around anybody's life. So I ventured into that, saw that certain restrictions were there, sold off my startup, made good money. And then I felt that technology maybe is something where India as a country has still a long way to go. The biggest challenge that we faced was that in India, industry basically leads the academics, which is the other way around in the West. So if there's a prototype happening in the West, the industry equivalent would come maybe 2 decades later. But in India, if something big happens at the industry level, only then it gets picked up at the academic level also. So this is where we thought that we can maybe bridge the gap. We can go to the academics again, can teach them about the latest tech, and can also identify the startups which are ready to build something big in India, as far as Web3, blockchain, all these technologies are concerned. So far, it's been challenging, but we've got some amazing response on the ground. Been able to develop almost 5,000 Web3 developers so far, coders, certified coders, and been able to incubate around 15 startups, and it's quite a journey. And some of them are almost putting up at my place, because this is the best way I could have maybe structured their journeys better, and it's quite a challenge on a daily basis to balance out things, but I'm really loving it and looking forward to this. Thank you.
Amazing to hear, Deepak. Amazing to hear those stories. And we'll now just drill a little deeper now. Ankur, if I were to ask you, it's very clear that when you want to think about something disruptive, I'm a journalist, and I've been in the media for 17 to 18 years, and I've always feel that this is an organization, and I felt it even 17 years ago when I joined, 17, 18 years ago when I joined as an entry-level correspondent, that there are a lot of young people, and the company wants to give opportunities to young people because, sometimes they will do something where a senior reporter, a senior resource may have his reservations or may not be able to bring to the table for whatever. And you respect the experience of the other person, definitely. But, keeping in mind where we are right now, our ambition right now as a country is to become a developed nation by 2047. I hope it can happen much faster. But what is the importance of young leaders when you have such an ambition? Today, there are geopolitical challenges, there are technological challenges, there are industrial supply chain challenges that you're looking at. But looking at people like you, like Arshi, like Deepak, why do we need more younger leaders in the country to solve these problems and become a developed nation as fast as possible?
I think it's a great question. Firstly, some statistics. There are close to 300 million Indians who will join the workforce over the next decade. And this number is unprecedented in global history. There's no country in the world so far that has ever seen, within just a 10-year span, 300 million people join the workforce. Because we are a young country, our average age is 27. We'll only peak by about 2048 or so. So we have nearly 30 years or so of just growing age and, of course, a working population. So whether we like it or not, we are a young country and we'll have a lot of young people joining the workforce, perhaps completely unaware of what corporate environment is, how should they navigate through that, how should they think about leadership, and so on. So it's inevitable that this room is symbolic of how do you see them, not as people that don't know much, but as potential leaders that will carry this country forward. And now then, it begs the question, what's the difference between young leadership and not young leadership? Because it's not age, clearly. It's not that somebody suddenly becomes young or old by an age parameter. It's how their mindset is how they approach things. Because if there's somebody who's willing to challenge the status quo, somebody who comes in with no set notions of how things should be done or not done, someone who embraces change and is willing to say, hey, there is Web3 coming up, and I don't know why I'm putting my shoulder on Deepak's hand here, but Web3 is coming up, and it's a whole new way of looking at something which has been so embedded in us as the right way of doing things. But let's look at it and see if this brings us to a different conclusion or not. That's a young leader. And that could very well be somebody who is 50, 60, 70, and could very well be somebody who's 25, 30, 35. However, what a 25-year-old or 35-year-old not have is the experience that all of you have. So I believe it's the responsibility of everyone in this room, and I'm not classifying you by any measure as old leadership. Please look at yourself as seasoned leaders. You have two really big opportunities and responsibilities. Number one is to define the role of a leader for somebody who does not know what leaders are and what leadership is. Because how you conduct yourself is how they will see leadership to be. It's like we will learn parenting from our parents. And a lot of who we will become as parents will be a reflection of how our parents treated us and conducted themselves. It's going to be the exact same thing when it comes to corporate managers and leaders as well. So if you think that your job is done once you are out and retired, no, you have left a footprint forever. And that is going to define how they think leaders will be and should be. So that's number one, and please do not take that lightly. I often say this, leaders are celebrities. The words you use, the way you conduct yourself, the way you respect others, the way you treat people is exactly going to be the standard that the company will have and hold everyone to. You may think you can get away with something in a close quarter. No, it is going to travel beyond your wildest imaginations. And the second responsibility that you have is to encourage somebody to come and challenge the status quo. It may not align with your worldview. It may be so far departed from you. You may be, no, that's exactly what I experienced in my teaching around personal finance. There's an entire generation that thrived on just keeping their money in fixed deposits, because it was safe, it was predictable. And the stock market was this really crazy maverick place where people just lost money and was satte ka bazaar tha. But there is an entire generation today that is being raised on stock market, even crypto. And that needs to be embraced because your world may be different and was different from what they're experiencing. So don't dismiss them just because they come up with an idea that is so wildly different from yours. If you allow for these two responsibilities to be truly embedded in yourself, you will nurture a generation which will be raised on the right foundation of what leadership should be. And that becomes a responsibility just as much as you are parents towards your kids. You are the same equivalent leader parents to this younger generation that will go on to define the 300 million potential leaders that is going to enter the country in the next decade. And please do not take that lightly, because trust me, I say this again, and I know I'm being repetitive. You have no idea how much your role as a leader today will influence the future of this country, because everyone who look at you will look at you as a definition of what a leader should be.
You know, that's very important. And, you know, I had a conversation with Rishad Premji of Wipro recently, Ankur, and he said something very similar, that when he looks out for hiring someone, he doesn't think of complementarities or similarities with that person. He looks for somebody who can challenge his worldview, his thought. Because if you don't hire people who think differently, then what else are they going to bring to the organization? So that's a very, very valid point. Arshi, coming to you, and as you're somebody who has roots both in India and UAE, what's the potential for India's youth to do in the world? We've got a very skilled demographic workforce in the IT sector, in different professions. How can we leverage this much better and make leaders out of them, according to you?
Firstly, I want to add to one of the Ankur's points where he mentioned about boring is fine, boring is okay. That's not called boring, Ankur. That's called aging. You are aging. Let's accept it. All of us are aging, and we should be proud of that.
We are all supposed to be young leaders. You all are supposed to be young
I
leaders.
mean, if you want to call that young, fine, but all of us are also aging. And having said that, like he rightfully pointed out, there's no age barrier in leadership. But also very important to understand that we define leadership within the barriers of the corporate world. We have to stop doing that. Homemakers are also leaders. We have extremely young people who are coming up with these innovative ideas, like he mentioned, are also leaders. Leadership cannot be compartmentalized. We cannot just put it out in the lens or the purview of corporate management or, for that matter, a certain function in the media space. Everybody is a leader. We cannot deride the contribution of a homemaker to each one of you here. Male, female, including both. Each one of us is a homemaker. Each one of us is doing fantastic work in the corporate space. So we have to respect that line. When it comes to leveraging the youth's potential, let me tell you from what I have experienced, because I'm not very theoretical like Ankur, but I can only share my personal experience. So I started out very young at the age of 17, like most people already know about that. And the fact that the leadership has given us the wings to get ourselves into multiple different fields, not just the vertical economies, but also the modern ones now with AI, robotics, machine learning, which is becoming so much more prevalent in India now. But this has been there in the Emirates for the last almost a decade. And this is the reason why most men and young men and women have forayed into the sector in virtual reality, gaming, understanding their implementation with the conventional economies. Now, for a country that has predominantly been an oil economy, or for that matter, the Middle East is perceived as the nations where the oil wealth has enhanced their resource and their intellect. But you have to understand, it is also the vision. If you didn't envision such a future, which is based on the digital economy, on entrepreneurship, on leadership coming from every space and every stature, you cannot live the reality that you are living today. We're living in exceptional reality, a remarkable vision of the UAE President, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, who has put together the ambition for developing a competitive knowledge-based economy, for putting together the D33 agendas, 100 digital transformational projects that will add 100 billion dirhams to the UAE GDP in the next 10 years. We're talking about trillions of dollars put into enhancing foreign direct investment. That is the reason for the youth to start getting themselves educated and capitalizing this opportunity which is growing in the region. It's in India as well. India is growing at a massive rate with the Indian leadership, and the Indian relationship with the Middle East has only become better. With the government, with the present administration, it has only gone from strength to strength. Why isn't the youth capitalizing this opportunity? Content creators need to start becoming a little more vocal about how they can do this. Ease of doing business, strategic positioning, taxation exemptions, so many opportunities for the young people to start foraying in. I started with sustainability in, like we spoke about, in 2018 when we started the company, in 2020 registered in UAE. In 2022, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum was given the presidential honor for his vision on leadership. The Dubai stands as a marvel for not just architecture, but its sustainability vision. The second awardee was me. Nobody stands close to the Dubai ruler, but we have to understand the respect and honor which is given to individuals who are doing this kind of work, who are advancing their own capacity. Now, I come from a very traditional background in mining, commodities, and complete trade work. For somebody like me to talk about sustainability, to talk about brain-to-computer calibration today, is very advanced for me as well. It is extremely modern for us today, but we are doing it. The nation is standing tall on innovation, on technological advancement. Why isn't the youth capturing this opportunity? There are Indian academic institutions that are partnering with government, the Ministry of Economy, Youth Council, the Arab Youth Center, the Mohamed Rashid Center for Government Innovation, the Mohamed Rashid Center for Space, the Hub 71. These are some institutions that youth from across the world can apply for. And these are not Emirati initiatives. These are initiatives for the world. You have to utilize these initiatives not just for grants, but also to talk to an audience that comes from more than 200 nations. Your access, your visibility and most importantly, the relationships that you create in the space of these advanced economies can really, really help you grow. So the youth needs to understand this first. And let me tell you, Middle East, very specifically UAE and Saudi Arabia, has a population, expatriate population, as well as citizenship, which has 80% of the people under the age of 40, right? So this is a predominantly young population, and we have to understand this fact that the altruistic planning of your own future needs to be in your own hand. You have to be more active. You have to be extremely open to taking up new challenges. And one of the spaces is by media, content creation, and leaders like Ankur, and of course, what I hear from Deepak in terms of blockchain that is very advanced for somebody doing it in India. We've been doing it since 2016, but I'm glad that with the present leadership, it has taken up very well in India. But of course, digital infrastructure is essential. You can't run a digital company without digital infrastructure. And the UAE has had an active blockchain policy. It is having government administrations running on blockchain from 2017. So make use of these initiatives, understand them.
You know, Arshi, one question for the benefit of all the young women leaders in the audience. You know, you've had a remarkable journey. You were extremely talented and you were recognized by the royal family for the work that you did. And full credit to you, but there must have been certain challenges that you faced in your career, in your lifespan. What did you learn from them? And is there anything that you'd like to share with our audience today? Because it's not easy to be a woman in a boardroom, in a government, in a parliament. And while we celebrate your success, we must also remember the fact that there are still very few women CEOs in the world. The women representation in governments and boardrooms has to be much more than what it is right now. So give us a sense of the challenge that you faced, one big challenge, and how you overcame that.
I mean, come on, Parikshit, this is not even a question. Any woman in this forum can answer that. I mean, this is the most common question that a woman is faced with. And all the women over here, it would resonate with them, is that we have to work harder. We have to be far more present. We have to be even constantly updated about what's going on than the men, because like we discussed, the norms are very patriarchal. And if women have to take up and these leadership positions, they have to be working twice harder than the men. And I'm not deriding the contribution that my male counterparts have. I am thriving because of my male counterparts. I have to say that. We have an official space as well as colleagues who are not just very far-sighted, but the leadership, His Highness and the family are very rewarding of women and their contribution to workspaces. Extremely respectful of the boundaries that you create, the fact that you have ethical ways of operation, and the fact that you are extremely trustworthy. And not to say that men are not, but let's be fair that women will always work harder to prove their worth. Men just have to go to office and do that. So let's be fair about that. It's the biggest challenge is also, for me especially, I think has been the presumptuous nature of people. I see a lot of presumption when somebody sees me for the first time. The easiest way to say it, she would be very traditional and can you speak English? I mean, come on, is this even a question anymore? We've worked harder to learn a language which is non-native to me. We've worked extremely hard on our soft skill. We've worked extremely hard to understand how we can advance ourselves with people of the world, because UAE sits at the hub as the hub of the world. It's not just the hub of the Middle East, it is the hub of the world. So you have to really move with the times, and a woman has to work harder. Because remember, we also have families to handle, and you have to understand that a woman is the primary caregiver, not to say that a man is not, but it is the truth, biologically, scientifically, and every man in this forum will agree as well.
Multitasking is not a choice for you know, Deepak, coming to you now. In Web3, you're dealing with a lot of startups. Your company is an incubator for a lot of startups in the decentralized internet and blockchain technologies. Give us a sense of the kind of young leaders you are motivating or grooming for the future, or just helping them grow their startups.
First of all, I resonate with what Arshi has said. In fact, my own journey started in Web3 because of my wife. So she got incubated by a Dubai-based blockchain way back in 2022. So she's running a successful startup in that space, and that kind of motivated me. The way she was, because she was having a home team because of the constraints with the kids and all. So that because all that was in my ears all my day. So they kind of pushed me that the domain I am into is maybe its time is up, and I really need to move on. So then took a hard call in 2023 to basically venture into something completely new. But definitely, she was the inspiration there. The challenges that we have faced and the kind of people we've interacted with. The biggest thing that we have to understand is if we talk about the ethos of the tech in general. So Web 2 is more inclined with the kind of ethos we have in the West. So it's a more centralized kind of an ecosystem from where the freemium to premium version works well for them. Because if you're putting up in the US, I think the more taxes you pay, the more access you have to the emergency services also. It's structured like that only. Web 3, on the contrary, is a more community-driven tech. So basically, you have to decentralize everything, means it is more democratized in that sense. So India, as a country, gets more aligned with that kind of an ethos, because communities play something which we are born and bred with. We've been in that ecosystem since the time we've been in this world. So this has come pretty naturally to the people. So the understanding and the onboarding at the first level was not that difficult. Like, I've been to more than 100 colleges in person, have interacted with majority of them. What I have seen as a pattern is in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 colleges, the adoption rate was much higher. The reason has been the COVID. During the COVID, these college students were primarily at their native places only. So they felt that this is the time where they can take a leap forward and can basically outrun their counterparts in the top colleges. So Web3 seemed like a logical way forward for them. So the majority of the global technology workforce in Web3 is primarily from India, and that too from tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 colleges. And they're immensely skilled. The kind of startup ideas, the kind of acumen that they have, the exposure, they're leaps and bounds ahead of their counterparts in IITs, IIMs. If I've like talked to both of them, the people from the top tier also and people from the relatively so-called lower tier also. And on the contrary, to the popular belief, people from tier 3, tier 4 colleges are much better equipped, having already a head start of good 3 to 4 years, where they have seen the cycles of technology, the bear and the bull run. They've built startups, raised money through grants and stuff, and are ready to take it a step forward. Whereas on the contrary, the top colleges, like if I talk about my own alma mater, people are not even aware of the basics. Like in computer science today, as far as IIT Delhi, IIT Bombay are concerned, the first and foremost aim of every computer science student is to get into high frequency trading. So this for them is the only focus that they have, because they are the most highly paid jobs, but they are not even looking at big tech for that matter. Like even the craze for AI, generative AI, and all those things are not existing. So talking about something which is remotely away, like Web3, is not even on the horizon right now. But as I said, a majority of incubations have been through my interactions in these colleges. We have also targeted some of the working professionals, and people have come up with some crazy ideas, like healthcare data, democratizing the healthcare data and basically building an entire ecosystem on top of it. There's an entrepreneur, I asked him to join me for today's event. He's building a dating app. He's sitting in the crowd somewhere. So he's a college student right now. So yesterday he was having his college exams. So he completed his college exams at 5, boarded the bus, came here for this event, because I just wanted to give him a taste of what exactly is there. And he's building a dating app, is already having more than 10,000 students pre-launch on his product. And these are the kind of exposures that we're getting. And he's not from a tier 3 college also. So this is, I think, going to be the way forward for the Indian ecosystem, that people themselves, because of COVID, have realized where the tech future lies ahead, and they have kind of married their ethos to the core ethos of the technology also. And I think in next couple of years, once there will be a lot more clarity around the policies, as she also mentioned that Dubai have clear blockchain policies. So if I'm very sure something of that sort will come up in India also. Once we'll see that happening in India, there will be an ocean of startups coming up. So people who are building the stealth mode startups would suddenly come up, and we'll see that India would be in a position to take things forward in a bigger manner, and maybe they might be the world leaders in this.
Absolutely. And one thing that, as you were talking, and it came to my mind, and I was talking to Arshi also about it just before we began this panel discussion. I think there are about 3 or 4 major problems that we face today as a world, and they're common to every country. One, all of us need supply chain resilience. We need to win the technology battle, and it is often said that India can win the Gen AI revolution, and climate change is a common problem. Perhaps these are the problems which will give youth their greatest opportunities. And I'll take the final set of questions before we quickly open up the questions to the audience as well. Arshi, your final thoughts. Giving us the example of what's happening in the UAE, how do we have a fertile ecosystem which allows young leaders to be nurtured, to grow for the future? Clearly, we have problems. The youth or a youthful mindset is going to give us those solutions. So how do we have an ecosystem, a regulatory ecosystem, which supports that growth as well?
I think one of the most important aspects of creating that fertile ecosystem is awareness. There are several agreements in the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement that India and UAE share that can be leveraged by the youth in terms of enhancing trade and investment. There are several opportunities in real estate, in the technological advancement that also very well put together by Deepak. One has to really just take that plunge, travel, and very important to also, which I highlighted before, is the understanding of the culture of the economy. I think if I come over here with an Emirati mindset and say I have to work in India, no. It has to be with an Indian culture understanding. Similarly, when the youth or any professional travels to the UAE, they must not have a very transactional mindset. It has to be a mindset deeper than that in order to create that fertility, in order to enhance that relationship, spend more time, have an understanding, create a relationship that goes beyond just your individual work. And I think that would be having far more longevity than creating just that one particular good or service in the country. Leveraging understanding and taking heed to all of the initiatives that the government, both the governments are running a lot of initiatives in order to enhance this ecosystem. And today, we're sitting at this exceptional place with the India-UAE relationship that has gone only really from strength to strength. I urge all the leaders that we compartmentalize you, all of you today, and also your friends and families, to understand that moving to the UAE for work, for financial stability, for social stability, for technological stability, for growing your ideas and flourishing has become the most standard norm. It is the most natural place for your progression because the UAE is not just for Emirati or the world. It is now a home to Indians, sometimes as the first home and not just the second home. So one takes a lot of pride in the coexistence and the tolerance that the government is extending to people, and the fact that there are several initiatives, incentives, subsidies that are extended for enhancing this cooperation. There's a lot of information in the public domain, and one must go through that. Sometimes the reservation is that maybe we might not be accepted, but you don't know until you try. So really just apply. I can guarantee you, you will get the responses. Thank you.
Right. Final thoughts, Ankur?
Anything in particular or just broadly?
Just about what is the major lesson that you'd like to leave our audience with? And as a country, how do we make sure that we have a more nurturing ecosystem for the youth?
I generally believe that it's not so much the government's responsibility as much as it is the individual's responsibility. And I would implore all parents in the room here to nurture kids in the right manner. How many of you here have kids between 13 to 20 years? Okay, some of you, right? Which are truly the most disturbing and challenging years for a parent, because that's when the kid is becoming more rebellious and suddenly believes that the parents don't know anything and they're far better, which all of us have, by the way, gone through. But it's a very interesting age because it's going to, in many ways, set, as I said, the foundation of how they would look at the world. And the only thing that I would love for you to focus on in a conversation with your colleague, of course, with your kids, friends, whosoever it is to encourage them to believe that the world is a positive-sum world. What I mean by that is that nobody has to lose for somebody to win. We have unfortunately grown up in an environment in India which was, at that point, truly a zero-sum game, where the only way that you topped the class was if the topper on the day of the examination had some severe problem and they couldn't deliver their best. Or the only way that you got a job was because somebody else did not get the job. There was a time when the demand was insanely high, there wasn't enough supply of the right opportunities, but no longer the case. So don't ever raise anybody or have a conversation with anyone saying that, hey, for you to win, somebody has to lose and you have to be competitive, because then that sets up a very rat race and a crab mentality that has, frankly, for the longest time affected this country in many ways that we did not desire. This is no longer the crab mentality country that we have seen it to be. Everybody can win. There is space for everyone. There isn't space not just in our country, but as Arshi said, across the world. The world's our playground. And as a young country, I genuinely believe that the next 2 decades are going to be such a fascinating period where you could be sitting anywhere you want in the smallest of cities with the internet connection and a laptop and serve the entire world, and nothing will stop you geographically and certainly not intellectually. But you have to believe that the world is a positive-sum game and not a zero-sum game. As long as you nurture that, I think we're good.
Right. We're already getting a lot of questions from the audience, so I'll take one final question with Deepak. Deepak, any final advice that you'd like to leave our young leaders with?
Yes, I think one thing I would like to highlight is that one philosophy that I think that people should take up is nipping things in the bud. Right? So with generative AI, I personally feel that it's almost been 20, 25 years of inputs that are already gone in, because all the data sets that they've been trained for ages are not sitting in India right now. So they are with the big tech. So building anything big on generative AI is now, for me, is a little foregone conclusion. But if we can basically leap forward towards technologies which are still in their infancy, I think that is the way forward for us. Because this has been our history also. Like, we moved from 2G spectrum to 4G spectrum. We never entered the 3G spectrum era. And that is the only reason we took a leap forward in the internet age. So Ankur himself is a byproduct of that internet phenomenon that has happened in India. And we by far are leading the world in that particular thing today, because we never stuck to the traditional stuff. We were visionary enough to take a step forward to basically nip things in the bud when the technology was in its infancy. With Web3 also, the reason why I jumped out of Web2 and went into Web3 is this, because the technology is still in the ideation phase, and this is where I felt is the right time to build the infrastructure, build the ecosystem, when the world is still not being able to embrace it fully. So just one advice, like for any young entrepreneur, if we could actually figure it out, instead of following the herd, if we could actually figure out ways where we can be the trendsetters, we can leverage on upcoming technologies, I think that would be the way forward for country as a whole.
All right, so let's open up to the audience, and we have questions coming in from Arpit Sharma. He's a partner at AAA LLP. Arpit, can we have you here with us, and can the mic go to Arpit as well? And Arpit wants to do a rapid fire. Who would you like to do it with, Arpit? Why don't you come right here in front? Who's giving the mic to Arpit?
I wanted. Hello.
Yes.
I wanted all the panelists to answer these questions.
So we have 15 minutes, and we have to take in more questions. So you'll have to choose one panelist.
Okay, one panelist. So that would be Ankur WariCrew. So what was the biggest failure in your personal failure in your life?
My entire life, man. I can go on and on. I don't know if you know, I have an entire failure resume. It's public. You can go and Google and search for failure resume Warikoo. You'll see my failure resume. Everything that I failed on. It's a laundry list. I wouldn't even go into it.
Oh, what would be that big one which you would like to share with us?
It hasn't happened yet.
Oh, it hasn't happened. And what was the biggest success that you
hasn't happened yet.
Okay. Okay. So the last one would be, when would you feel that this is it, that you have had enough?
Right now. Precisely at this moment. And I'm kidding you not. Like, this is not a philosophical answer. I genuinely believe I have enough, and I wouldn't want anything more. I'm super content with my life.
Okay. Very good answer.
Hey, thanks.
Thank you so
Arpit.
much.
Let's get in Ankur. This is a question to Ankur actually, and this is coming in from Anup. Anup, who's the chairperson of the Nepal AIMA Young Leaders Association. Anup, can we have your question? And ladies and gentlemen, we need more questions for the audience. Hope you're listening. Otherwise, I'll come to the audience with a mic to ask you people.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for allowing me to question. This is to Mr. Ankur. As you said, like India is looking for a job opportunity for 300 million by the next decade. But what earlier panelist says that with next 3 to 5 years, we won't have a human even in the panel discussions. So how do you see like both can collaborate? It seems contradict now. How the new young people will get job when AI is coming so aggressively?
The best thing, Anupji, is we have always been a country of entrepreneurs. The big difference is that entrepreneurship today is looked at a very tech lens. We think that the entrepreneur is only that person who's sitting in peak Bengaluru, working out from a Starbucks, has a MacBook, has raised money from people. But if you really think about it, self-employment is entrepreneurship. Almost every family in this country has somebody who owns a shop or some sort of a small business or a trading outfit. So we are a country of entrepreneurs. What technology has done, which is to the credit of Deepak and everyone else who's supporting it in such a big way, is you make it mass. You make it not like the only option out of college is to get a job. It is to create your own job. And I genuinely believe that we are at the cusp of that as a country. So I personally believe that the government's pressure of creating job, as much as they have it and they should feel it, should not be the only entity that feels the pressure. 90% of people who are graduating from a college could very well be opening their laptops and literally creating an income stream sitting on their laptop with an internet connection with nobody else having to employ them. And that will be the new India, where literally everyone thinks of themselves as an entrepreneur and having a job is not the only career option that they have.
Yeah, it's about the mindset. Big round of applause. Yes, please. No problem. No, of course, please go ahead.
No, you're disqualified now.
So first of all, thank you very much to all the panelists for sharing your knowledge and insights with us. Now, I'm a bit hesitated right now. There are butterflies in my stomach, and there's a reason behind it. One, because I'm asking question. And second, because I'm seeing Ankur Warikoo in front of me. And this is actually special. Before I speak what I wanted to share, what I wanted to ask, I just wanted to check quickly from the audience. How many of you are following Ankur on any of the social media platform? So I think these butterflies are in their stomach as well, and especially the youth. Ankur, words are less to express, but I must say, when you are so positive with what you share on any social media platform, it is one of the things that has come true for me, because ये भी एक vision था, एक aim थी to have you face to face. So one side when I'm seeing you there, it seems some YouTube video is going on, and the other side when I'm seeing you, I'm so grateful that I could have this opportunity. The thing that I want to share, that the thing that you're doing, everybody knows you who is following you, personally, professionally. I know your sister, very good dancer. Your story about your daughter, your failure resume, we all know. We all know? Yes, there is nodding. So the connection that you are having with people by the work that you're doing is so impactful, whether it is teaching them SIP, because I was learning that as well from you. So thank you for the work that you're doing, and thank you so very much for inspiring us.
Thank you so much. That's really, really kind of you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
And
That's really,
I am
really
Richa,
nice.
if you remember. My name is Richa Batla.
I will certainly remember that, Richa. And you'll have the check by this evening. It's almost felt like a sponsored poster. It's like, thank you so much, Richa. Thank you so much.
Lots of...
It almost felt like we have to start following Ankur now. I mean, come on. Why do you have to have butterflies? You are an exceptionally confident woman.
Absolutely.
You're talking to a man who is doing great work, and so are you. So be proud of that.
Exactly.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great thought, Arshi. Thank you so much. So we're getting more questions, lots more. Yeah. Let's do one thing. All the people in the audience who are asking questions, why don't you come to the front of the stage? It'll be quicker, and we'll be able to take questions more quickly. And keep your questions brief so that we can pack in more. Yeah.
Sure. Ankur, question from you. I have built up something to solve a problem.
Ankur's been asked a lot of questions.
Can we please, yeah,
Okay.
exactly. There's so much that
So from
Arshi
all
and
three of
Deepak have
you
to
can
say.
answer this. I found a problem and I found a solution to it, that I can watch a movie in my language wherever I'm in the world. How do I go viral?
How do you go viral?
Again, this is something that I have very limited interest in going viral. I mean, that might just go viral. But I think this answer is best by Ankur.
इसका एक Web3 solution होगा दीपक के पास.
Like, I have a Ankur Warikoo story also. Like, my wife met him in one of the events, and she just was curious to know about like how YouTube works. So Ankur just came up with a very small advice, and he said, build it like a passion as a side hobby, but don't build it like a mainstream thing, because it is going to take you at least a couple of years to have something relevant on YouTube. I don't know whether she followed it, but I followed it. Because I've been passionate about cricket, as I mentioned, all my life. So I started my own YouTube channel. And based on that, and like luckily it's doing really well. And I just recorded once a week for an hour. And whenever like we have a meeting, I just go to my physical office once a week. And whenever we sit down at the end of the meeting, we generally discuss cricket. And it's like a meditative thing for me. And instead of discussing it, we just record it now. And we put it on internet. We have decent followers now. So I think what I have learned over the years is about virality is, again, having the discipline, being ready to do the boring thing, being consistent for at least a couple of years, and then you'll start seeing the results. Because people have made it big. Like my co-founder, he also kind of started his digital journey almost at the same time when Ankur did. Made a lot of money in the last Web3 wave. Was again a pretty successful YouTube influencer in fintech space, but more related to Web3. And the same thing was there also, like consistency, discipline on a daily basis, and ready to like give some time to it, like maybe a couple of years.
Ankur, very quickly, how to go viral?
Iconic movies, iconic scenes, no more than 30 seconds in the top 7 languages of the world. That's what you have to do.
And have Ankur Warikoo in the
Have
frame
Ankur
with you.
Warikoo. Make him a collaborator. Okay. Now we've completely run out of time, and I've been told by the organizers to wrap up. 2 final questions, if we can get from the audience. Yeah, and also Gursimran Singh Oberoi. Okay, please come. Just ask your questions, and then we'll take the answers.
It was really a very fantastic discussion on a very important topic, a topic which we normally keep on discussing. Artificial intelligence and what's happening to the IT sector and all. But rather than what has been discussed, that artificial intelligence would be creating more jobs, but I personally think that it would be replacing a few jobs also. And it would be creating jobs only in certain specific fields. Like, for example, if I talk on management, it will be creating more jobs for areas like finance, could be for business analytics, and if I talk about engineering, it would be creating more jobs for CSIT people or electronics people, because I have seen there has been a drop in the enrollment.
Sir, just come to the question.
There has been a drop in the enrollment in mechanical engineering, civil engineering, and other fields. So I would like you people to address this question, because it's very important.
Yes, Arshi, go ahead.
So, I mean, there is a lot of debate and dialogue in the public domain about the future of jobs with artificial intelligence, but you have to understand, and all of us together will be responsible for the replacement of jobs, because our understanding of AI is very botched up. Artificial intelligence is your assistant and here to augment human ingenuity. It is not here to replace you. And we start using that as a replacement because we think that it will eventually replace it. But the truth is that you have to use it intellectually, you have to use it intelligently. The moment you realize that this is here for your augmentation and assistance is when you start, and when you stop having that fear of replacement. It will add up to more than 300 million jobs worldwide, and we have to understand that the downside of any technology is in its usage and not in the concept. So I don't personally think that it will replace a lot of jobs, because we do use AI and generative AI, like Deepak mentioned, and it is not replacing what the human mind can do. It is impossible to replace the human mind and what human beings can accomplish.
So maybe different kinds of jobs and not lesser jobs per se. Gursimran?
Yeah. Sir, we run a banking institute where we train candidates for retail banking branches. So we have 26 centers across 13 states in India, train 10,000 students, and we have mission on 1 lakh bankers by 2030. So my question is, कि retail bank branches exist करेंगी because of this AI and this? Because some countries I have seen कि कुछ downfall आया था branches में, but because of these frauds and cyber security issues, फिर लोगों को लगता है कि बैंक में जाके ही काम करवाना है. So because our business is based on all as a teller, customer service officer.
Deepak, do you want to quickly address it?
I'll just give an analogy to it. I think EdTech mein hua hai. If you've seen it with education also, during COVID, everything moved in the online space, and people thought that schools, offline institutions, all these things will become irrelevant. And post-COVID, we all know what has happened. So all the big EdTech giants, they've completely vanished. So I don't think so. The technology would be able to replace the human element, but it is going to just empower it. And even talking about the traditional branches, like, because I've been into education sector for all my life, mechanical, civil, all these branches, the demand in India has been decreasing. The only reason is, if you talk about these branches, they are specific branches. So in India, the BTech ecosystem is really good, but the higher study ecosystem is not that good. So if you really want to do, like, for example, if you want to get hired in the West, masters is a mandatory thing. And that way, people know that if you want to settle down after BTech, computer science only makes the logical sense forward. Otherwise, they would have to at least look for higher studies abroad. So that is the primary reason why our other sectors are suffering. It's not because technology infusement hasn't happened there and the scope of technology is not there.
Right.
So technology is only going to marry the traditional thing. It is only going to enhance it further.
Okay.
This is the way I see it.
So Deepak, Ankur, Arshi, it's been a fantastic conversation, and just a couple of takeaways. If you have to be successful, stick with the boring, ask a lot of questions, be ready for failures, and don't be bogged down by them. Be very determined once you've decided to do something, and there is no alternative to hard work. Keep yourself updated, keep yourself aware, always build yourself with more knowledge, be ready to learn and listen. Being a patient listener, a good listener is extremely important as a young leader as well. We'd leave it there. I know all of you have a lot of questions, a lot of fans in the audience for all our panelists, especially Ankur. So a big round of applause to all our young leaders here in the panel and in the audience. Thank you so much.